Hi there, welcome to Cosmedi Pros. I'm Matt Quinn. Today we are speaking with Sean Niven from Peaky Hairlines. Sean is a SMP artist based in Kent and offers treatment and training as well. So I'm excited to talk with Sean today about some of his journey, how he got into SMP, and what he's doing both now and in the future of the industry. So hi Sean, welcome to the show.
Hi Matt, how are we doing? Okay.
Yeah, you good, mate?
Yeah, all good, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on.
That's good. Glad to have you here. So, Sean, why don't you just start telling us a little bit, about yourself and how you found your way into scalp micropigmentation?
Yeah, okay, cool. So my name's Sean, as you already know. But yeah, I'm based in Kent, scalp micropigmentation artist, offering treatments and training. So yeah, how I got into the industry originally through obviously, my partner Nadia. She's a permanent makeup artist. She's already been in the industry she must have been at least permanent makeup for at least 3 years. At the time when she came home and said to me about scalp micropigmentation. It wasn't at that point, it wasn't even something I'd really heard of. But she'd been on a marketing course in London and she met a scalp pigmentation artist, Paul Tatlow of Auto Ego Hair Clinic. I'm not sure if you know him, but he had already been in the industry for a while. But yeah, they were both on a marketing course together and they got chatting on the course. And yeah, he kind of was saying to her, would she be interested in learning how to do scalp pigmentation? And she wasn't really interested in it. She was, had her hands full with the permanent makeup side. Obviously with permanent makeup, it's not just the one treatment, they do the eyebrows, lips, eyeliner, and they're all quite different treatments. So yeah, she didn't want to take on scalp micropigmentation as well. But yeah, she came home and said to me about it. And yeah, I started looking into it, got in contact with Paul. He was really helpful actually. Even though he's based in Wales, he's got family in Kent that he come down and visits quite regularly. So when he was coming down to visit his family, we were meeting up. And that was kind of my first sort of introduction into it. We didn't actually do a full training course, just logistically, it didn't quite work out with, he was popping up to see his family, but didn't have enough time for us to do like a full training course. And obviously, for me to go out to Wales was quite a long way. We did look into it, but he was quite busy, busy doing his treatments and everything as well. But yeah, the more I looked into it, I ended up finding, an artist more locally who was doing really good work as well. And I went and trained with him, as Ollie Hughes. I know who, probably know Ollie in the industry. Yeah, I went and done a training course with him, and I just started off. So the job I was doing before, I was working really long hours. So I was doing lots of overtime, weekends, stuff like that. But what I did once I started doing the SMP was just slowly sort of cut down on the overtime. Started doing just like the normal hours and the job I was doing previously, and doing the SMP on evenings and weekends. But then yeah, it didn't like I was quite lucky. Really, it didn't take long to start picking up, and then I was able to move over completely, just doing the SMP, which was great. Then COVID hit, which was obviously wasn't ideal because obviously I wasn't able to do any treatments. Nadia doing what she does as well. Neither of us were able to work. She was actually so yeah. We had our eldest at that point. Um, he wasn't able to go to nursery, but the nursery was shut. So she wasn't able to go out to work. Fortunately, I ended up actually working two jobs during lockdown. Just say because we had our eldest, and in them times, obviously, it was strange times when he weren't even really allowed to get on to look after them. So yeah, it was well, it was funny times, wasn't it? Because we didn't really know at first. It was kind of I think it was like a month. Well, it was meant to be like a month circuit breaker or something. They said. So he was like, okay,
Yeah,
that's not too bad. We're gonna have a month. We're
couple
gonna
of
have a month
weeks.
off. Yeah, so have a month off. I'll pay up for a month. But yeah, it ended up being well, what was it? It was like over a year in the end, wasn't it? I think maybe even longer than that. So yeah, that was tricky times. But yeah, I was quite fortunate coming out of the lockdowns and everything. I think that was like April 2021. I think it was, if I remember correctly. We were able to come back, fully. And yeah, I managed to build up I think I had about a 3 month wait list, going back after the lockdown, which was brilliant because before that, it was just early days building up, and I'd have a treatment, I might have a client booked in one day and there might be a couple of days where I had no clients. So yeah, just being able to build up that 3 month wait list, coming back after lockdown and just solidly doing treatments, I was able to, it was just, how can I say, it was, yeah, just sort of building that skill over that time. Just, yeah, it's quite difficult because obviously you come out of your training and you're not just going to have clients, lined up one after another. You can practice, and I did loads of practice. I was always practicing on melons, fake skin, and things like that. But you can't, as much as you can get your muscle memory going, your technique going, it's not the same as getting on actual skin. Everyone's skin is different. So just going through having them clients back to back, different skin types, different ages, different skin colors, it was just, it was really, really good in a way. Obviously, lockdown wasn't ideal in any way, but just having that time to build up that wait list and going back in, it was actually quite beneficial to me in a way, going back to having all them sort of clients back to back. And I've just been sort of lucky enough really since then that I've stayed busy really, I'm not, I've not got a 3-month wait list now. That's slowly kind of, I've slowly caught up with that. But obviously doing this full time, which is great, really, really enjoyed doing it. So can't complain.
Yeah, likewise, I started my first agency in COVID and literally just on the lockdown cusp of it. Had to make a similar decision, like, do I continue and go ahead or pivot or do other things? But I do remember it was like just a month lockdown, and then I think it was almost 2 years really. I think they kind of let us out, didn't they?
Wasn't it? It was. It was a long time.
So how did you, in that period, obviously you did really well building up like a list to kind of come out for. What was the main, did you just kind of keep active on social media? Did you kind of work your referral network? How did you kind of build that list?
That was actually through doing ads on Facebook and Instagram. It was actually quite a good time to do those because a lot of people stopped doing them because they weren't able to work. A lot of people stopped doing them. So actually, it actually worked really well. And because I had the time, I say I was working 2 jobs, they weren't 2 full-time jobs. I had some work with a friend, and then I had another person that I know. But they weren't full-time jobs, so I did still have some time, at home. So I was able to. The thing I find, obviously, we do Google Ads together, don't we? Do you do Facebook and Instagram ads as well?
I'm more directly involved in the Google Ads, but I've got people on my team, so we provide Facebook as well, and obviously Instagram is part of the Facebook.
So I think the thing that I find with Facebook and Instagram ads is you get loads of leads, but the amount of people you book in off those leads tends to be quite a low percentage. So I just found it when I'm full time doing treatments, I find it a lot more difficult to, you almost get a bit overwhelmed with all the leads. I find with Google Ads, you get a lot more quality over quantity. So it's a lot easier to sort of keep up with. But obviously during lockdown, when I wasn't doing, full time doing treatments, around doing those other jobs, I had a bit more spare time to be able to go through all those leads to get to the good ones, if that makes sense. So it's great. I think it's great. For me personally, I think it's great at the beginning of your SMP career using Facebook and Instagram ads. I mean, I've not run them for a long time, so I don't really know how they're going for people at the moment. I can only speak from my own experience, but I found them, I mean, as long as you've got the time to, be constantly keeping on top of going through all those leads and getting to the good ones, I think, I remember there was, in a month I might get like 40, 50 leads, but, I might be lucky if I put in 5 or 6 of them, which is fine when you've got the time to, it's not just literally someone saying, how much is it? You saying a price, and then they're saying yes or no. It's people have a lot of questions naturally, at the end of the day, it's something that's going to be on their scalp. So it's, people naturally have a lot of questions. And even back then, it wasn't, I suppose, it wasn't actually that long ago, but seeing people's knowledge, I think there's a lot more available to people that are doing their research online now. I think there's a lot more for them to, kind of go through. But even sort of back then, I'm saying it like it was a long time ago. It was only a few years ago, wasn't it? But I feel like it's quite a long time in this industry because it's a relatively new industry. It's, people's knowledge then to now is, it's sort of night and day really. So I was having to really educate people, and that's fine. I'm more happy to do that. But when you've got like 40, 50 people that you're, going backwards and forwards with, it's almost like a full-time job on its own, I would say. Like I say, which was fine then because I had the time. But then once I was back doing top treatments full time, I just couldn't keep up with, all those leads to go through, all of them to try and find the good ones. So that's why I sort of came away from that. And now, I'm quite lucky now that I get a lot of business through recommendations, where I've, got quite a big client base now. it's not always just like direct recommendations either. Like I had a recommendation the other day that it was a black cab driver, but he got talking to another black cab driver whose son's treatment I'd done. So yeah, it's funny how these things kind of link back. But yeah, for me now it's a real mixture of recommendations and Google Ads. I'm quite happy with how that keeps me ticking over. But yeah, I'll definitely anyone that's new to the industry that's struggling to get clients, I'd say Facebook and Instagram ads, they do work. I mean, don't get me wrong, you have to have, you can't just put a $5 a day on it. In my opinion, anyway, I think I was spending £20 to £30 a day on ads, and it can be quite scary. And you think, oh God, over a month, is this, it's going to be that amount? But you're booking in 5 or 6 clients, sort of treatments, ranging anywhere from 1,000 to 1,500. It can be sort of 2,000. Well, it depends how much you want to charge for your treatment. But when you look at that, when you're looking at your spend compared to how much money you can get in, how many treatments you're going to book in, I had to sort of not look at how much I was spending per day on treatments like one day, go over a month, and then look at how many treatments I was booking in off the back of it, if that makes sense, and kind of go from there. But yeah, like I say, that's kind of my experience and what worked for me. But yeah, obviously it's different for everyone.
Yeah, that's great insights there. I think 100% you've got to look at ads, whichever platform, or any marketing as an investment. I think you kind of highlighted that there. People are kind of, scared to spend, but really whatever you're investing in marketing, whether it's ads or SEO or even other methods, you should return more than you spend, and you've got to kind of invest. I think a lot of people make the mistake on ads in particular. When they're starting out, they'll go like with a really small budget, like you said, kind of £5 a day, a couple of pound a day on Facebook, and that's going to cost you a lot more over the long run. You're not really going to get the scene, the visibility. Both the programs, Google and Facebook, they run off data, and basically that's what you're giving them the money for, to get the data. So you're kind of better putting down more money quickly to get that sort of answer and get to the people you want. And I think, like you highlighted there, the difference between the platforms. Generally with Google, people are actually looking for your service. We're catching for the people, they've already made their mind. They want scalp accreditation. So really they're just looking for like the artist near them, the artist with the best work, who can I get to in my area? They've done their research. Whereas social media, a lot of the time, it's new people, they haven't heard about it. You've interrupted them while they were doing something else. So that's why you do get the 20 sort of questions. And I think people have to realize, with kind of like you did with social media, you might get even the poor leads. They could be buyers, but you've got to think they might not buy for like 3 months later. Have to do those sort of answering questions, nurture them a little bit, and then sort of get them to that stage where then they're actually going to buy it. And I think that's why it's very important for clients to kind of have systems in place and stuff like regular emails going out once you've captured that data, especially if you're using social media. Don't just speak to them once and then kind of write it up, follow up with a phone call later, follow up with the email list. If you've had someone ask some questions and not heard of them in a couple of weeks, get back on the phone and kind of see how they are, and you'll get your kind of close rate a lot better from social that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tricky one, because for me personally, I don't actually like to sort of chase people. I mean, obviously it can work in some ways. People are just kind of forgotten about it, but I feel like someone that's ready to have the treatment done, I feel like sometimes if you start hounding them, I know it's not necessarily hounding them, you just like checking with them, asking how they are and things like that. But I've had people that have inquired and I've not heard from them for a year, 18 months, and then I get back in touch and go, I'm ready to go now. I feel like when you kind of, I know you're not necessarily hounding them, if you just like send a follow up, you can do keep it friendly and things like that. But I do think people that are ready to have the treatment done, they will have it done when they're ready, if that makes sense. And I suppose, in a way, I don't know, it's a hard one, because they might, just be thinking, I'll have it done in the future at some point. And if it pops up again, they might think, oh, just know what, let me just go for it. So there's a fine line, isn't there? You don't want to be hounding people. At the same time, you want them, you want to be the one that they think of when they kind of do decide to go ahead. So I do kind of get that for sure, but I just think there is a fine line, isn't there? For me, I don't kind of, once I've spoken to someone, I just kind of leave it in their court. If they're ready, if and when they are ready to have it, then kind of trust that they will contact me in a way. But yeah, I suppose, yeah, there is definitely a place for that, isn't there? But I think there's definitely a fine line. You don't want to kind of be hounding people.
Yeah, I think again as well, a lot depends on kind of your style and again what you like. I know you kind of have quite, you're happy with where you are and quite relaxed approach to the marketing and the sales. I know if they're sort of new and need those leads a bit quicker, that's probably when they need to be more up on the follow-ups and stuff.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
then
no,
they're
100%.
stable if you need to get that. And then obviously that's me as well coming from the market in me is kind of speed to lead. So I kind of want you to close every single lead, but also
Yeah, of
particularly in
course.
your industry, it's it's a life-changing treatment. So you
That's
don't
the
you don't
thing.
you don't want
Yeah,
to pressure sell someone into taking it either at the same point. So I think yeah, there's definitely that fine
no,
line. And
exactly.
I'd say nurture rather than sell. So like you're sending them help guides. And I think as
Yeah,
well at the moment there's a lot more clinics opening in the area. And I kind of see it as well that like you're not now necessarily the only clinic in your area that they've sort of contacted. So keeping that sort of fresh in their mind, even if it's just making sure they're like following you on social media and you're
yeah,
doing relevant content. Because like you said, a lot of time even people aren't interacting with you. And you'll see this again with like the organic social media posting. They may not be liking or commenting, but they are actually watching and following you. And like those people have probably been watching your Instagram for a year before they've come, back to you and they've like seen your work, seen the quality, and that's helped inform their decision.
yeah. No, definitely. Yeah, I agree with that.
I think so. Let's talk a little bit about S&P and the actual treatment, your approach to it. I know kind of you do quite a lot of work with the sort of hair transplant side, don't you?
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I'm getting more and more now. Yeah, guys that have had hair transplants that either want the scarring covered up. Most of the time now it's the FUE method. Where you get lots of small scars sort of around the back and sides where they've taken the hair from. I do see a few still of a lot of times ones that have done quite a while back because of the older, the old school method. I say I don't know. There might still be people doing this method. I'm not too sure, but where they usually just take a strip from the back and it leaves like a strip scar. I do see the odd one of those, but mainly is people have had the more modern method done, the FUE method, where they take all the scars separately. And also, quite a lot of the time, I mean, it's not always the case, but the hair on top, where they put the transplanted hair in, can still be quite thin. So we can just kind of work through it just to make it a little bit bigger, almost put like a shadow through it, so you can see less of the scalp through the hair. Yeah, just it essentially makes gives the illusion of makes the hair a little bit thicker. But yeah, I'm definitely seeing more and more of those. I think sometimes people think that they kind of got to choose between having S&P or having a hair transplant, but they can work really well together. In my opinion, in a way. You see a lot of people saying, "Oh, like failed hair transplant, botched hair transplant," and don't get me wrong. Obviously, there are some that have probably gone wrong, but a lot of the time, it's just it's not necessarily that the hair transplant's gone wrong. It's just that they can only take so many hairs, from the back to move to the top. Even if they've moved every single hair from the back and side and put it on the top, which obviously they're not going to do. But even if they did do that, it's still you're not going to get the density on top that you had before you started losing any hair. If that makes sense. And it's funny, it's funny how many people I speak to that don't realise when you have a hair transplant, they think where they take the hair from that hair grows back through again. It's I don't know if you know much about hair transplant yourself, but they literally take the hair from the root, so it doesn't grow back. That's why you get left with those little scars from where they take their hairs from. But yeah, obviously with S&P, we can kind of cover those scars up. What a lot of people end up doing is keeping their hair quite long around the back and sides to try and cover those scars. If that makes sense. But obviously it's quite popular hairstyle now to have your hair short around the back and sides and a bit longer on top. So yeah, that's obviously a great thing with S&P. We can kind of work through it and cover it up. But yeah, no, I'm definitely seeing more and more of those now. And I think some of the hair transplant clinics now are starting to come on board with the fact that S&P can really help with, because there's only so many people end up having like 2, 3 hair transplants, and when they keep taking more and more hairs from the back and sides, they end up making a big mess. So hair transplant clinics that I've had guys contacting me saying, I've had a hair transplant, or sometimes I've even had a couple of hair transplants. I'm still not happy with how it looks on top, but the hair transplant company have actually said to me, maybe look at scalp micropigmentation, which I think is great, because I feel like it's not obviously not, I can't speak for everyone, but from what I've kind of seen, there was a bit of a almost like hair transplant clinics and SMP clinics kind of saw each other as competition, if that makes sense. But I think, certainly I was like, if I have guys that come to me for a consultation and they've just lost a little bit, so they've just lost a little bit of hair in the front of the corners, and it's been stable like that for a while, and they haven't lost any hair anywhere else, I will say to them, a hair transplant can be a good option for you. I'll always say to people, I'll always be open with them. I won't just say to them, right, yeah, come in and have SMP, because when you have an SMP, you've got to obviously shave your head short and keep it shaved short. Otherwise, once it's done, that's it. Even if we're just doing a little bit on the hairline, you can't then grow your hair back out. So obviously, it's not going to look right. So I would say to them, look, have you looked into having a hair transplant? And you could potentially be a good candidate for it. Obviously, it means then that they're not going to be my client, but ultimately you've got to have people's best interests at heart. So yeah, I have said obviously they've got to be careful who they go with. Same as they've got to be careful who they go with having SMP done. But yeah, like I say, for me, I think it's definitely starting to move that way in a way. But I'm hoping that carries on, and the SMP clinics and the hair transplant clinics can actually start sort of working together, rather than like I see and this is just my opinion, when I see people like a lot of SMP, like people saying it's not necessarily that it's failed, it's done the job that they've tried to do. It's just that the client's obviously not happy with the result, otherwise they would become seeing SMP artists. But I think definitely with some hair transplant clinics, they need to be, again, this is just my opinion, they need to be a bit more upfront with people and set the expectation a bit better. Because I have had people that have had hair transplants and that come in, obviously, I only see people that aren't happy with their hair transplants. If people have had their hair transplant and they're 100% happy with it, they're not going to come and see me. And I always try to keep that in mind as well. But I have heard from, and some, like, there's a real mixture. Like, some will be like, the hair transplant clinic where one should be and said, look, you're not going to get a full head of thick hair, but we can, move a certain amount of hairs there, and you're going to have more hair on top of your head than you originally had. But then there's other cases where guys who have literally got no hair on top of the soil, have literally got hair around the back and sides, and the hair transplant have said to them that they're going to get a good result, which is, it's just for someone someone that's literally got hair on the back and sides, they are never going to get a good result from a hair transplant, because they can say, I think something like they can take up to like 5,000 to 6,000 grafts, I believe, from the back and sides when they're doing a hair transplant. And like your average white person, I say white person because white, Indian, black people, we're all born with different amount of hair follicles in their head. I think with white people, on average, born with 50,000. Indians, I say on average 40,000. And then black people, 30,000. Even though their hair's really thick, they have less hair follicles, but they're thicker hair follicles, if that makes sense. So anyway, back to just using white people as an example. Say you're born with 50,000 hair follicles on your head. Obviously, that's just an average. For argument's sake, say you've got 25,000 around the back and sides, 25,000 on top. If you've lost all of that hair on top and they move 5,000 from the back and sides onto the top, you're still going to only have 20% of the amount of hair that you would have had before you started losing hair. So you can imagine how thin that's going to look on top. It's not going to look right. So yeah, back to the point I was trying to make is, I think the hair transplant clinics need to be a little bit more upfront with people. Not all of them. Like, I have guys that have said, I went to a hair transplant clinic for a consultation, and they said to me, look, in all honesty, you've lost the amount of hair that you've lost, you're not going to get a good result from a hair transplant. So I do think most of them are honest with people, because obviously they want their clients to be happy. It's not beneficial for their business to have unhappy clients. But there are some, I'm only saying what I've heard from clients that I've had who I'm covering up the scarring and working through the top, trying to make it thicker. They have said that they were the hair transplant clinic have kind of almost sold them a bit of a dream, that they're going to get a much better result than what they did. So yeah, but yeah, like I say, I feel like it is already moving in the direction of hair transplant clinics and SMP clinics starting to work together a bit better. I'm just hoping that continues, because I think that can only be beneficial for both industries and for clients. Like I say, I think they can work really well together.
I think that's good. It'll be good for SMP as well if they can kind of get, because the hair transplants have a bit more exposure as an option. I think if SMP can kind of side along that, not just an alternative, it can kind of gain a bit more reputation from there. I mean, I know a couple of artists who do actually do sort of referrals with hair transplant clinics and say that's kind of a good source of work for them.
Yeah, no, it's really good.
Yeah.
It's definitely, I think that should be, the way that it should be. And it's essentially from the beginning of the client's journey, just educating them, educating them as to, this is what you can get from a hair transplant, this is what you can get from S&P, this is what you can get from both, and then they can make an informed decision from there, which, kind of route they want to go down. But yeah, no, definitely, that's the way that I say. I'm already kind of, just like you said there is clinics working together, and yeah, I hope that I'm sure that's going to only continue to grow, and I think it's only a good thing, definitely.
So if someone's, thinking of getting S&P, what would you say are some things they should look for in choosing their artist, choosing their clinic? What would be, some advice for things that you think they should look at, maybe research, who they should speak to?
Yeah, I mean, definitely do as much research as you can. There's a lot of stuff available online now. I'd say don't necessarily just go, right, this is the closest clinic to me, and go to them, because everyone's work is very different, ultimately. And yeah, it's kind of looking through different artists' works, seeing what you like, what you don't like, even going for consultations with a few different clinics. Don't rush into it, and always, I get people apologising to me for asking lots of questions. And that's quite a regular thing. They're like, oh, I'm sorry for all the questions, but I'm like, no, don't apologise. Like, you ask as many questions as you want to ask. I'm more than happy to answer them. Like, guys coming for a consultation sometimes, and they'll have a sheet of paper, and I'm really sorry, like, for that sheet of paper, and they got all these questions on there. I'm like, honestly, it's absolutely fine. It's important to ask all those questions. And then, yeah, it's thinking long term as well, because, obviously, once you've had the treatment done, every 2, 3, 4 years, however long it happens to be, you're probably going to want to come back and have a top up. So it's going to be, a long-term relationship. I mean, obviously you can go and have top ups done by other artists, but I'd say just kind of think, don't rush into it. Have consultations with, a few different artists, and yeah, just kind of, make an informed decision from there. And yeah, like I say, don't ever feel bad for asking questions. Ask as many questions as you want. I'm sure all artists will say the same as what I say, and more than happy to answer them for you. And yeah, say make a sort of informed decision from there. Yeah, don't be kind of just driven by who's closest to you necessarily. And like you said earlier, there's more and more clinics opening up, even within closer areas. So yeah, it's only a good thing for clients that they're going to have more choice with who to go to, because everyone's work is different, and it's just finding someone's work that you like, but also they're going to get an idea of having a consultation if they get on well with you, because that is important as well, really, because like I say, it's going to be sort of a long-term relationship.
Yeah, I think you mentioned there as well about different clinics and different styles. I know that's kind of one thing I know from speaking with, and kind of why you're called S&P artists as well, because different artists do have their own kind of style and approach, and it might not necessarily be, like I was speaking to another artist the other day, and he was saying it's not necessarily about one artist is better than the other. It's just they might have a certain style that is better for the client, or the client likes more. I think you've kind of mentioned before, natural results is quite big for you, and
yeah,
that sort of getting a natural outlook and stuff. What's your approach to airlines, and what do you like to see or work towards?
yeah. I mean, my personal preference is, obviously you have to take into account what the client wants as well. I'm never going to say to the client, right, you're having this airline, this is my favourite airline, and that's that. You've got to take into account what they want as well. But yeah, for me, it's my personal, for me, is natural as possible. I've seen online there's like people using like lasers to to do hairlines and stuff, and if that's what they want to do, that's obviously up to them. But all clients have to do is, or anyone has to do, is raise their eyebrows, and you can kind of see where your natural hairline would have been. So that's where I always try to say to people, you don't have to go on exactly where your hairline originally was. You can kind of see as well, anyone that has lost their hair, the skin on your forehead is slightly different texture to the skin on your scalp. So you can literally see, just from raising your eyebrows and looking in the mirror, they'll be able to see exactly where their hairline originally was. So I always try and say that go with that shape, because that's always going to look most natural to you, because that's how your hairline originally was. I always try to get people to go on that path, but ultimately, as well, it comes down to what they want. I mean, if someone come in, and just like say I've got a white guy in his mid-20s and was like, right, I want like a really sharp sort of hairline, I'll try and advise them away from that, because it's not going to look natural. But if that's what they really, really want, then I'm sure they will find that someone that will do that for them. But I'll just obviously have to say that, I wouldn't be comfortable doing that hairline fuse because I don't believe that would look natural. But you could, I'd say it's not just saying, right, this is the hairline you're having, like I touched on going with that shape, it doesn't necessarily be right on where their hairline originally was. You can go a bit further back, like some people want to, especially if they're sort of in their 50s and above, they don't necessarily want to bring back exactly where their hairline was when they were 18. But I'd always kind of recommend going that shape, but you can always go a bit further back. And the good thing about having the sessions as well, the treatment's built up over the sessions as well, is, we can always start a bit further back and then over the session and start to bring it down. So we go straight in at the lowest point that we can go at, and then they're like, oh, you know what, I wish I'd gone a bit further back. We can't then take it back, but we can always bring it down a bit lower. So yeah, the good thing with building up over the sessions as well, which I really like, is that you can kind of, it's almost like clients going through the journey through those 3 sessions, they can kind of give their input into, I want it to stand out a bit more, or I'm quite happy with it being really subtle. I always say with clients, kind of going through the journey together, you can always give your input as we go through the session, because they can see lots of different before and after photos, but when they actually see it on their own scalp, it's a bit different. But, I always start off with a really light shade of pigment on that first session. And, I always oblige not to go to, unless they know exactly, they definitely want their hairline in a certain place, and we can go straight in at that point. But yeah, it's kind of just, starting off really light on the first session, and they can kind of get used to that between, that first and second session. And obviously they're going to be looking in the mirror a lot between those sessions. And when they come back in, they can go, right, they can give their input onto, how they would like it, if they want anything changed at all. Obviously I'd advise as well. But yeah, it's like I say, it's obviously, there's a reason why we do it over the 3 sessions. One of the main reasons is it would take a long time to do it all in one session. The client would be sat there for a long time, and it can start to get a little bit sore after a few hours. But the other thing is, we need to see how start off with that light shade, see how that settles, because it does settle differently in everyone's skin. So we have to play it safe, and then once we can see how that heals, we can take a judgment call where we can go in shade. Essentially, obviously, we're trying to match up to the client's own hair follicles. And then the second session is when we really start to come together. So we're like, right, okay, it's healed that shade in your skin. That lighter shade has healed that shade. We can now go with this shade to get that perfect match with your hair follicles. But yeah, I think I've gone off on a bit of a tangent there. But yeah, it's like I say, it's kind of, I always make sure that it's not me saying, right, we're doing this, we're doing that. I'll always take on board their thoughts, with it as well. So that ultimately they're going to be the ones going to be looking at it in the mirror every day, So yeah, it's kind of, I always make sure I work together with clients to make sure they get what they want. But at the same time, if they wanted something that wasn't going to look quite right, I'll always, give my input and advise them and say, what is going to look natural. But yeah, ultimately it's about working together to get a treatment that we're both, 100% happy with.
Yeah, that's questions I see people asking a lot. Can't I just have one session? Can't it be done? But I think certainly from what I've seen around SMP, having that kind of processes, the sort of 3 to 4 sessions, bringing it in is the better approach. And I would sort of, say I've seen some clinics do offer like the faster sessions, and I wouldn't necessarily think that's the best approach to go for. I would kind of say to people, from what I've seen, go
absolutely not.
do it in multiple sessions.
It can't be rushed. And I think even if someone said to after you do it all in one session, after like 3 or 4 hours, they're probably going to be like, actually, because for myself, it tends. On average, it tends to take about 3 hours per session. Obviously, depending on how much hair they've lost and the condition of their skin. If they've got dry skin and things like that, it can take a bit longer. But by the time it gets to the end of the session, people are ready. They're ready. They're like, when you say you stop, normally they're fine for the first few hours. It's like having normal tattoos done for a while, it's all right, and then it starts to get a bit sore. So and we don't want to cause too much damage to the skin. Once it does start to go sore, if you keep working over it, you're just going to be causing too much trauma to the skin. So yeah, I'll definitely anyone think about having the treatment done. If someone says, "Oh yeah, we can get it done really fast for you," that's not the way that you want it to be done. It's going to be painful. It's going to cause a lot of damage to your skin, and you're not going to get the best result. It's not something that can be rushed. It needs to be, in my opinion, obviously built up over those sessions. Yeah, no, for sure. So yeah, like I said, it's definitely not something that should be rushed.
Outside and into the wider industry, I know you were a judge at the PMU Festival Awards. What was that experience like, and how did that come about?
Yeah, no, it was really, really good actually. Yeah, it was the first one last year, August, I believe it was. And yeah, no, Jess Abbott, she's a permanent makeup artist, and yeah, I think she's got quite a bit of land. Her and her husband Steve, they've got I think he's in the construction industry. I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think they built the sort of bought the land and built a house on it. Yeah, it's absolutely amazing, lovely, yeah, really nice place they got there. I think she don't quote me on this, but I feel like it went from having sort of parties on the land in the summer with like friends, and then she kind of thought, you know what, about doing it's called the PMU Festival and Awards. It's a bit like a conference, I suppose, but just a bit more laid back. You know, a lot of these conferences, not like anything against them, but a lot of them, you know, really, you know, got to be suited and booted, which is obviously, you know, not necessarily a bad thing, but Jess's one just a lot more relaxed. And yeah, no, it was really good, really, really good. Got to meet some sort of permanent makeup artists and some other scalp artists there as well. I believe she's doing another one next year, this year as well. I think it'll be in August again, yeah, but yeah, I'll definitely recommend. It's on the Instagram, PMU Festival Awards or something like that. Anyway, it should come up if you just think PMU Festivals. Can't imagine there's too many of them. But yeah, I'll definitely recommend anyone to go to it this year. I'll definitely be going again. And yeah, the first one went really well. Even though it was in August, it did rain a bit, which is a bit unfortunate, but it still went really well. It was you know, sort of a covered area where there was people in there demonstrating, which was really interesting. You know, there was even some art tattooists in there. I think there was even something they're doing, it's like permanent jewelry, which is a new thing that's getting quite popular, I believe. But yeah, it was just, like I say, really laid back. And yeah, I'll definitely recommend anyone, you know, to come to it this year because yeah, it's really, really good.
Wow, check that out. And I know you've also mentioned Nadia, who's your partner. She's, you know, quite a
Yeah,
well-established PMU artist and trainer. So kind of
Nadia,
what are her
Nadia,
like? How does
yeah, I was gonna say it's Nadia, not Nadia. She doesn't like being called Nadia, so yeah, no, so be careful. Yeah, it took me a
Nadia?
while when we first got together. I was like, all right, I'll make sure I said Nadia, not
Nadia.
Nadia. But yeah, she's really well established in the plant industry. She's really busy doing treatments and training. And yeah, like I touched on earlier, she's kind of the reason I got into the scalp micropigmentation industry. Obviously, it's a different treatment, but it all kind of comes under cosmetic tattoo. And yeah, it works. You know, it works really well for us. We're both really grateful that we get to do a job that we both really enjoy, and it works really well. You know, it works really well around our lives. We've got two young children. You know, kind of I do the drop off in the morning, like dropping off the nursery to school. She tends to start work a little bit earlier, and then she does, you know, the pick up after. She tends to start a little bit earlier and finish a bit earlier, and I tend to start a little bit later and then work a bit later. I mean, obviously, my scalp treatments take a bit longer as well, and brow treatments or the eyeliner, lips, whatever she happens to be doing. But yeah, no, she's obviously you work with her as well, don't you? You know, Google that. She's very very business minded, isn't she? She's, you know, even just this weekend just gone, she was, you know, I don't know if you spoke to her about it, but she ran like a group session with a load of people. She loves motivating people, things like that. So yeah, she had to run like a course of people. It was called like 2024 our best year yet. Yeah, so she like you do with both of us. You probably see her quite different. She's very like on it, and I'm just very laid back. But you know, it works quite well. You know, the way it's even though we're different, it kind of, yeah. Sometimes she'll even say herself. Sometimes she probably just needs to chill out a little bit. Whereas I'm the other way around. I probably need to be a bit more on it. So it's, yeah, kind of she motivates me to kind of, you know, push on when I need to, and I think, yeah, I kind of help her to sort of chill out and relax a bit when it needs to. So yeah, no, it works. It works really well.
Yeah, I think it's good that, you know, you've got something similar but different at the same time. I'm sure kind of helps with, you know, bouncing ideas off each other as well, and that support
Yeah,
network.
yeah,
Also,
yeah.
so I know as well as the treatment, you do training from Peaky Hairlines for artists. So
Yeah.
just to touch on a little bit of that, what's your kind of training approach, and you know, what would make training with Peaky Hairlines kind of stand out as an option for those thinking to get into the industry?
So yeah, with the training, it's something that I really started last year. I've not really been pushing it that much. I get a lot of inquiries about training, but I'm probably from a sort of salesman perspective, again, I'm probably a little bit too honest with people, but I feel like it's important to be so. It's, I see sort of some companies saying, come and train with us and you're going to go away, you're going to make this amount of money. And, it's almost kind of, again, sort of selling the dream. It's not like that. So, yeah, obviously, yeah, you can make good money from it, but it's the same as any other business, really. You're going to have to work really hard at the beginning. You're going to continue to have to work hard, but especially at the beginning, you're not going to come off a training course. I see people in forums saying, I've done my training, and they're kind of sort of slagging off their training, really, saying that, now that I've come away from the course, I'm not getting any clients and things like that. But it doesn't matter who you train with, it's like learning how to do the treatment and then getting clients is two different things, It almost needs to be another training course on how to get clients. I mean, you know yourself, you do marketing. It's not easy, especially at the beginning, someone's having a treatment on their head, they've got to trust you. I mean, if you haven't got a portfolio, I definitely say with your training, try and utilize it as much as possible. The models that you're working on, try and get as many photos as possible. You're working on them, just basically getting as much as you can really from that training. But I've gone on a bit of a tangent again. The original question was about my training course, wasn't it? I was talking about other people's. But yeah, for me, it's I've kind of taken what I got from my training. My training was great, but for me, it needs to be one-on-one. You see a lot of group training. For me, it's unless you've got 4 people teach. Say you've got a group of 4 people learning, unless you've got 4 people teaching, it's just. For me, it needs to be completely one-on-one, and my training courses are and will only ever be one-on-one. And for my training course as well, I kind of make sure the student does a first, second, and a third session. With some training courses, you literally go and just have a little go on a scout, and it's just nowhere near enough. You need to be able to see how that treatment builds up over those sessions. And with my training course, I will at the beginning, they will get their machine, pigment, needles. I was given practice skin, and melon's great to practice on as well. And so the first 2 days of my training course, the first day is completely theory and a bit of practice. Second day there'll be a lot of practice, and then you'll be working. I'll be doing most of the work on the live model, but you get to on that first session, but the student will get to have do some of the work, and then they will get to take away their machine, and then it's about them practicing from what they've learned from just having that little go, because they'll, believe it or not, you'll learn a lot from that, just getting on someone's actual scalp. They can then go away and just really practice, because you can get straight out of practice skin without working on an actual scalp. For me, you don't really know what you're doing, but once you've actually got on that scalp, even though you've not necessarily done a lot on it, you'll have a much more of an idea of, okay, this is what I need to do on the practice skin or the melon. And then, they can go away between that first and second session, practice, the more they can practice, the better. But then when they come back, they will then come back to do that client second session with me, and then they'll get to do, as long as they've done enough practice, which is their part of it, they need to make sure they do that. Then, that we'll probably do sort of about half and half. Maybe they might do a bit more than half, depends kind of where they're at. And then the idea is that then they'll go away and do more practice in between that second and third session. Then when they come back to do the third session, it's over to them, and I think that's really important, because obviously, essentially when they do start getting their clients, I'm not going to be there, they need to be comfortable to do a whole session by themselves. But for me, just that grad build up is the way to do it, because like I say, you just to have a bit of a go on ahead, and then all of a sudden you've got to do a full treatment by yourself, you're going to really struggle, to just having that gradual build up. Yeah, I believe that's the way to do it personally. But yeah, I mean, that's how I do my training course. As I touched on earlier, I get a lot of inquiries about training, but it's, I'd say I'm always completely honest with people, and it's just bearing in mind that if you're thinking, I want to go and do this industry because I want to make loads of money, then I would say don't bother. It's you've got to, you've got to really want to do this, because the amount of effort you're going to have to put in to make this work, you could put the same amount of effort into a different business and make that work, if that makes sense. It's not like a get a rich quick kind of thing. It's if you feel like you kind of had a look to how the industry works and think, what, I'd really like to do that. it's not just a financial thing. It is like I find it really rewarding in a way that it really does help give people their confidence back. I'm not, and it's funny because there's a bit of I'll get clients coming in saying that I'm not actually that bothered about losing my hair, but this is an option. Some of my clients are super confident guys anyway. It's not necessarily that they've all lost their confidence, but on the other side of it, I do get guys that it has really affected them. Guys that are just literally wearing hats 24/7 because they are really affected by it, and then they have the treatment done. I see normally most of the time after their first session, they might still be wearing their hats. Just after that first session, it's very subtle. Then once they've had their second session, it really starts coming together. I'll see them come back into their first session and they haven't got their hat, and and I can just see in them that they've really, sort of, excuse me, they've become a lot more confident through having the treatment done, and that's obviously a really nice feeling that you've been able to do that for someone. So it's really rewarding in that way as well. But yeah, like I say, if you're someone that's thinking about getting into this industry, thinking, right, I'm going to go and do that and make loads of money, yeah, you shouldn't be thinking about it like that. It's going to be, it's going to be you're going to have to put a lot of hard work into it. And like I say, the amount of work you're going to have to put in, you'd be similar with any other business. So if there's something else that got a real big interest in, I would say start a business doing that, because it's going to be, like I say, you're going to have to put the same amount of work in, whether it's this business or that business, So yeah, that's kind of advice that I'd give anyway.
Yeah,
From my personal experience.
Good points. I think, too many of the courses do just sell the highlights, if you like, of yes, you're going to do this, and you'll make this money from this treatment, but obviously don't explain the overheads of a clinic, the marketing costs, the other things, the time. And I think that's like with a lot of businesses. I think what you've hit on there is really, don't get into any business just to make money. I think really, if you want money, probably going and working for someone's probably easier and quicker route to that on some things.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But
probably something you've got an interest in, isn't it? Sure.
The hours are going to be long, and there's going to be kind of days where it doesn't go what you want. And I think it is really positive. I've worked with various SNP clinics now for probably about 3-4 years now. And before then, I didn't know what SNP was like at all. When it was a friend of a friend who kind of got into a clinic, and that's how I first started working with it and helping from the marketing side. But within that, I've seen my fair share of testimonials on people's sites, and I think the confidence issue and the results people get from it, that comes through a lot. I didn't realize how much before that, as obviously I kind of haven't got SNP and I've got short hair, but I've had a shaved head since I was 11, so it's always been normal. But then people who have got hair loss a bit later and kind of tried to not wanting to shave their heads and not had the confidence to do that, but then they've gone and got SNP and suddenly, they can shave it. Like you said, they're happy to walk around without the hat. And I've seen, countless testimonials where that's like a real factor and made a real positive difference to people. So it is a very good career, and you are making a good difference for a lot of people. And I think as well in the alopecia market as well, that's another one where I see a lot of people now kind of looking at it as an option. And again, from the testimonials I've seen from people, it's definitely a positive outcome. So yeah, thank you for you've given a lot of insights. Is there anything else you'd like to share or touch on with the audience?
No, I don't think so. Just want to follow me on the socials, Peaky Hairlines, Instagram, Facebook. And yeah, I mean, any questions at all, like I touched on earlier, people apologising about asking questions. I think I sometimes feel bad about it. But yeah, I'm always happy to answer any questions, whether that's about treatments, whether that's about training. And yeah, I'll always be, completely upfront and honest. But yeah, that's where they can reach me. I imagine you're probably going to put some links.
That's right. Yeah, the contact information, wherever you're watching this, you'll be able to get the contact info for Sean and Peaky Hairlines. And if you've got any comments, drop them in. I'm sure I can pass them forward to Sean, or we can pop back and answer them. Yeah, so Sean, absolutely. Thank you for your time.
No worries at all. Take care. Catch up soon.
Speaking to you again soon.